Funding for Frontline is provided by this station and other public television stations nationwide, and by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
Tonight on Frontline, this is Marge's 84th birthday. She is one of millions of aging parents now dependent on their children, their daughters.
I don't resent taking care of my mother-in-law. I resent the time out of my life.
I feel that I'm a burden to them.
Who am I?
I don't know.
Try to think.
Why don't you tell me?
I'm your daughter.
Well, that's good.
Tonight on Frontline, what about Mom and Dad?
From the network of public television stations, a presentation of KCTS Seattle, WNET New York, WPBT Miami, WTVS Detroit, and WGBH Boston. This is Frontline with Judy Woodruff.
Good evening. We are in the middle of a revolution that is going to change the way we live. By the year 2000, the average American will live past the age of 80. That's 35 years longer than our great-grandparents did at the turn of the century. There is great hope in this. As we reach retirement, we will discover gratefully that our parents will still be with us, but also that the added years will bring added dilemmas. Tonight, in a special repeat broadcast, producer Ofra Bickel goes to the suburbs of one city, Philadelphia, to listen to the stories of ordinary middle-class Americans quietly struggling with what to do about Mom and Dad.
If we are 40, these are the faces of our parents. Never have those 65 and over looked better.
Arms up, just as far as you can go.
Never have they been as fit.
Okay, let's do that again.
I didn't watch your deep.
Never have they had as much leisure
In
time.
your clubs, I got 4 trump in my hand. I can't get into. I got a trump.
And never have they lived better. In the last 4 years, their income has grown 3 times faster than that of the average American family.
The tour actually starts in Miami, so I have to get to Miami, and then they fly us to Manaus in Brazil, which is way in the... Oh, really?
Salieri tries to poison Mozart.
You saw his obituary in the paper, did you?
Yes, a very nice write-up on you.
In fact, old age has been redefined. Within this century, we've gained another 25 years of life expectancy. Another chance for another turn. And while old loves still burn strong, new loves can still be born.
To love, to honor, and to cherish her above all else in the world. If so, answer, I do.
I do.
Vows exchanged as child, grandchild, and mother look on. It's no longer unusual. This is the good news. But there's also some bad news.
You happy for us, Mom?
Mother is not just a guest at the wedding.
Mama?
Why don't you eat your sandwich before your cake, Mama? Because the cake will spoil your appetite. Mama? We want you to be nice and strong, Mama.
That's going to keep you healthy.
Eat the sandwich. It's much better for you.
This new gift of life was ushered in and found us unprepared. The middle-aged woman who may have an exciting new life ahead of her also has her widowed, aging mother. Our old parents may have each other for a longer time, but at a price they may not be able to afford.
Open your eyes and look at me.
No one was prepared for what has happened, and no one knows exactly what to do or where to look for guidance.
I did open them.
Okay, then who do you see?
So between a baffled society and inadequate institutions,
You're right, Annie.
a generation was caught in the middle.
Sit.
Gee.
We made it.
Ginny belongs to this generation.
That's better.
She is 48 years old. She is a nurse. She works with the sick elderly.
Oh, you're doing great.
She nurses them and helps them all day long
Just a little bit more. You can rest if you're tired.
and all evening long,
Okay, one more step.
back home with her husband and his mother.
Okay, you can watch your show. I'm going. I got work to do.
Yeah?
Ginny married Fred 4 years ago.
We met on a blind date. A friend called me up and said she wanted me to go on a blind date. And I said, hey, Barb, I never go on blind dates.
I was single at the time, and I had no one to go with. And a friend of Ginny's was also a friend of mine. And she said, Fred, you can't go to a formal affair by yourself.
She even had it all figured out, you know, that I could get my hair done and I had this skirt that I could wear, that I would be presentable.
So a couple of days later, she calls up and she says, I have a date for you. It's a little on the heavy side, but she's got a wonderful personality.
And I went into Barbara's house and she introduced me to this man.
Here I am, I'm Fred Walter.
And here he was, dressed in a tux, and he just, I don't know. It was just like some kind of, you know, like a dream, like something you read in a book. This was Prince Charming, and we were going to the ball.
It was a fairy tale.
Yeah. Yeah, and it seems like about 20 years have passed between that time because it's not a fairy tale anymore. Sometimes it's like a nightmare. And you say, well, that's life. This is his mother. If you love someone, this is his mother. We were married less than 4 years. I had only met my mother-in-law 4 times. She was living in Florida, and the neighbor that had been taking care of my mother-in-law let us know that she could no longer take care of her.
Lunch is ready.
And that we would have to find something to do with her. She could not take care of herself. She's crippled pretty badly with arthritis, so she cannot walk too well. Her hands do not go any higher, don't even go up to her shoulders. She cannot bathe herself, she cannot take a shower, she can't stand by herself. I just felt that we couldn't put her in a nursing home down there. It would be just like putting her away.
There was really no choice. It was a matter of dumping her in a nursing home and leaving her down there and forgetting about her, or bringing up here and taking care of her needs as best we could, as long as we can.
I was very independent. I tried to do my own thing, and so it was very hard, and I couldn't do it anymore. I never thought it was their duty to take care of me. It was a shock to them and to me.
All our children were out of the house except 2 when we got married. And we had a freedom. We golfed, we swam, we went shopping, we came home from work, and if we felt like eating, we ate. If we didn't feel like eating, we didn't eat. If we felt like anything, you know, if we felt like taking off on Friday night and going down the shore and not coming home till Sunday, we did it. If we felt like coming home Friday night, we did it. And now all of a sudden our life is regimented. We have to have meals at a certain time. You go out to dinner and you feel, well, gee, Mom's been cooped up in the house all week long. We ought to take her out. You know, you don't want to, and you feel guilty if you go out and you don't take her out. And yet, if you take her out, you can only stay out two hours, because that's all she can stay out is 2 hours.
I feel that I'm a burden to them. They can't do what they want. You know, many times they would like to go out or do this and that, and they can't, because I'm here.
Here, put this foot in. Right here. Look at this boo-boo again. Every time I look at you, you got another one.
I feel sorry for Jenny that she has to put up with me. It's hard for her. I need care.
Is that a new one? That's where
She has to bathe me and do a lot of things for me.
Where did you get it, do you know?
So it's hard on her.
That was a year ago. I don't have any anger against my mother-in-law. She's a very lovely person. Very pleasant. And I enjoy talking to her when I'm bathing her, and we talk about her past and what her life was like in Germany and how she grew up.
I didn't like all that goings on with Hitler, and everybody followed him just like sheep.
Your family too?
Oh, yeah. They had to.
Why? Were they afraid?
They were so afraid. My
know.
sister said, I'm glad when you leave again, you're going to get us in trouble. Because
really?
Because I spoke up, I said what I thought.
I think it's about time for your medicine.
Okay.
Whether Fred is home or not, it's Ginny who takes care of Mother.
I'm a nurse. Nurses take care of patients. It's always the woman that takes care of somebody else. You know, your hair's got real silver in it now. Yeah. I don't resent taking care of my mother-in-law. I resent the time out of my life taking care of my mother-in-law. I would like to just spend one day all by myself in the house. I would like to shut my bedroom door at nighttime, but I can't shut my bedroom door. I would like to sit in the living room and talk to my husband, or just sit in the living room, just the two of us, even if we don't talk to each other. But we can't, because Mom is sitting in the corner.
Yeah, it makes it hard for everybody. I try to be cheerful about it and do the best that I can.
And she says it tastes like it.
So they all go about their lives as best they can.
Do you have a picture of your kids from my backyard in Cheltenham? I knew it.
It's nice having her. We talk about old times, old friends, things that have happened in the past. She loves to reminisce.
And I say, hey kids, look.
I feel very cheated.
Oh, they look.
I've earned this time in my life. I've raised my children, and I've earned a time when I can plan for my future.
Were you surprised when you looked out and seen the snow this morning?
Oh, it was beautiful. I feel that they should have their own privacy and their own life. I lived long enough. I lived my life. Ginny did. It shouldn't be like that.
How should it be? In support groups all over the country, women, who are almost always the caregivers to aging parents, agonize.
Well, a good daughter should return in kind, and I should take care of her. In reality, I don't want to do this, and I get very conflicted.
I can rationalize the fact that my father had to be placed in a nursing home, but on an emotional level, it's just an entirely different story.
A mother can take care of so many children, and one child can't take care of a mother. I feel that I should be taking care of her, and I should be doing it in a willing way, in a loving way. I should be doing it because it's the right thing to do.
Mother, what did the children say when they called you on the phone?
I don't remember.
Marion's mother has been living with her in Philadelphia for the last year.
The paper. How's that?
Oh, I didn't know you could.
They have all the ads in for holiday food. Okay?
When is the holiday?
It's in a couple of weeks. My parents lived in Florida. They own a condominium. They were going to come here for a visit in September of '81, and my father died suddenly of heart failure. Mother. And they have an article in here on a way to make red snapper. From that point on, she started to deteriorate completely. Let's find out what this French chef has to tell us. She couldn't find any reason for living. And she took a batch of sleeping pills. Salad. Dry white wine, that sounds good. She had sleeping pills in the house, and she OD'd on them. And you set it aside to sort of marinate. That was it. After that, she came here. And you bake it. It sounds simple enough. You threw a red.
When Marion's friends want to see her, they usually come to her.
8 band. I became a widow in the spring of 1980. And it was a very short marriage. It was less than 4 years.
8 band.
And it was a very beautiful marriage.
5 band.
And it took me quite a long time to adjust.
8 band.
And a year and a half later, my father died.
8 crack.
And then, of course, the failure of my mother.
6 band.
I really didn't have a chance. I didn't have a chance to do things that I would like to do. I would love to travel.
Yes.
I'd love to go see my son in Oregon.
7 crack.
But I can't make any plans to do things like this.
9 band.
So I just do what I can. I would like to be married again. I enjoyed being married in my second marriage. It was a good marriage, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to have been able to have a good marriage. And I could find, with the friends that I have that are married, and so many of them are second marriages, I want to be part of it. I want somebody with me. I want to have somebody to lean on.
The one person she leans on now is her daughter Linda.
Hi, Lynn. How are you? Good. How's Stephen?
My mother has no life of her own anymore. She's not able to come and go as she chooses. She's not able to be with who she wants to be. She's not able to make plans. She's not able to be spontaneous. Everything is curtailed. Everything works around my grandmother.
There you go. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Margie. Happy birthday to you. Hey!
Now are you ready for a piece of cake?
This is Marge's 84th birthday. Marion and a friend celebrate.
The funny thing, years back I used to think to myself, there is longevity in her family. My grandparents lived until they were, I think, in their early 90s.
Oh, boy.
And I remember thinking about it a while ago.
You like all your cards and your presents, Mother?
Yeah, I'm going to have my mama for a long time.
Thank you. You're welcome.
But I didn't consider that the brain failure can happen.
Plate up there.
Whether it's senility or whether it's Alzheimer's or whichever it is.
It is delish.
At this point, I would like to see my mother put my grandmother in a nursing home. I think that she would get the best care that way. I think my mother could then resume her life. And I think that that's important because my mother has a life ahead of her. And I don't really feel that my grandmother has that much more of a life ahead of her at this point. And I think that my mother's life comes first. My grandmother has had 84 years. My mother will not have 84 years if she continues this way. And I don't think that's fair.
But on the other hand, you say, well, look, she gave birth to you and she took care of you. Maybe now it's your turn. Yeah, there's a lot of inner conflict.
I don't feel that I have that kind of capacity, that I could give up my life as I've seen my mother do in order to take care of my mother.
I see my own life as being pretty dull and going by with very, very little. Pretty dull. I don't see any rainbows. He was trying to, he's guilty of something. It's a funny thing. He was trying to put the blame on somebody else. The holiday season is coming, and I start shopping to buy things to make a package to send to Oregon. It seems like I only made that a couple of months ago, and it's a year. How fast the years are flying. Another year has gone by, and I have accomplished nothing for me. Nothing. I've done the best of my ability to take care of my mother. I care about her very much. I love her very much. I hurt for her. I'm just tired. Well, we'll stick it out to the end. How's that, Mom? See what comes of it.
Zachary! Watch the doggy! Good. One more, please.
This is the way we'd like it to be.
1 second.
Families joining together across the generations to celebrate the extended family.
Good. Now, we will take 2 more without the hat. Good, thank you. 1 change. Here we go. Can you just cross your ankles for me? Smile, sir. Here we go. That's
The large American family.
All right, the last one for the cover now. This is.
It's part of the dream we were taught to expect.
Who am I?
I don't know.
What's my name? I'm your daughter.
This is what was not promised, and what none of us expects.
Who is Marcy here?
Okay, what's your daughter's name?
Who, me?
Yeah.
I don't know.
What's your daughter's name?
If I knew, I would tell you.
That's Marcy.
Marcy.
Well,
A middle-aged woman with an old impaired parent is more and more part of the reality.
Who am I?
I don't know.
Try to think.
Why don't you tell me?
I'm your daughter.
Well, that's good.
My name's Peggy. I have an 85-year-old mother.
I have an 80-year-old father. My name is Margot, and I have an 86-year-old mother-in-law.
My name is Pat, and I have an aunt who is 80 years old.
She is what they term pleasantly confused.
We've had several psychiatric tests, and they said positively no way can she take care of herself.
So she's now in a nursing care facility.
With the symptoms of Alzheimer's disease, confusion, loss of memory.
For so
What to do with an old impaired parent is a harrowing dilemma for grown-up children. With nothing to guide them but the sympathy of their peers, they must decide, when is a parent too old or too frail to decide about his or her life? Should a child take over? When? And by what right? A word often heard in these sessions is guilt.
I think the guilt feeling is the worst of all.
And then you feel so guilty because they've done so much for you, and what are you doing for them?
I had taken someone out of a home that they loved.
Couldn't we have kept him home a little more? Couldn't we have tried nurses at home first? Da-da-da-da-da.
And I feel guilty about it.
How can one not feel guilt when a person wants to come home, asks you to come home, and you are the one responsible for that person? You're the one to make that decision for that person. How can you not feel guilt?
Pat's aunt has been in a nursing home for 5 months.
I think of my aunt almost constantly. She's on my mind somewhere, whether I'm working or at home. No matter where I'm at, I'm still got this decision. Okay, will you bring the card in when you come? Okay, very good. We'll give him a call. I'm the only one anywhere nearby. The only relative is in Florida, 1,000 miles from here. McKendry is the name? Yep. You want separate billing on these? So I've been more or less stuck with the decision as how to take care of her. Should I leave her in the nursing home? Should I take her home with some help?
What if I was really sick? I think when you're really sick with something else, it's easier to cure than to go.
She wants to come home. She wants to come home. She calls me frequently, or when I go there to visit her, which I try to get there a couple of times a week, she wants to come home. I tried to offer to get somebody in the house to help her. She doesn't want to hear of it. She will not hear of it. She gets positively furious at the thought of having somebody in with her. She doesn't require it, she said. Then she insists on going to the store for herself. She has to cross a busy intersection to get there. And I don't know how she hasn't gotten hit before now, because her mind wanders. I'm afraid it's going to wander right out in the middle of that street. I come to the house, well, at least once a week. And when the weather was nicer, of course, there were trim hedges, take care of lawns, pull weeds. I just continue on coming here and doing what I can to keep it going. Keep it presentable to where it doesn't look too bad for the neighborhood. It's sad. They work so hard and they enjoyed their home for so many years, and now it's, of course, no one getting any enjoyment out of it. When she first went away, I came and I cleaned it good. Dusted and did the floors, etc. But now, of course, with no one in it, it doesn't require that much care inside. But the main thing is the mail that must be kept up with.
Says, I do hope you're well. We are okay. I'm sorry I haven't written sooner, but we do think of you. Mama's fine in her own way.
She's not good enough to go in a retirement home.
Care for her 24 hours a day.
She's too good physically to be in the nursing home. If she was just a little bit better, I'd say, okay, the answer is to come home.
To get to Florida, or should want to come to Florida, give me a call.
If she were a little bit worse, I'd know I had made the right decision to leave her in this nursing home.
Isn't all that far away. Take care of yourself.
But right where she's at, she's right on the borderline.
Touch. Love, Doris and Fullman.
And you don't know.
Love, Goslin.
How are you feeling now, anyway? Are you anxious to go home still?
I've forgotten what this place is.
Paul's Run.
Oh, yeah.
You're eating better in here than you did at home.
Well, I can cook for myself at home.
Well, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You have people in here. It's lonely at home.
I don't care.
You don't?
No.
I feel guilty in that I'm spending so much money at that nursing home. I can't even tell her what it cost. She would just go to pieces if she knew how much it cost. They just save money, save money. I guess they just wanted to leave their money to people to say, this is what I accomplished in life, possibly. I don't know. But then when I come along and I'm spending this amount of money to keep her in a nursing home, which I know she would be dead set against if she realized, I feel guilty. I do. Who am I to do this? Who am I to make these decisions? There must be somebody that knows more than me.
Peter Strauss, an attorney, is supposed to know more.
There are many times that I will wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning after having had a long conference with clients wrestling with these decisions, and I wake up in a cold sweat and ask myself, who am I, little Peter Strauss from New York City, to be asked to make judgments about this? It's very troubling to me. Sometimes I throw up my hands and say to the family, we must go to court with this. Your relative is far beyond the point in which we can make these decisions in the abstract. Should a patient be institutionalized? When should that person be institutionalized? And frequently the context is in the opposition of that patient to any kind of a nursing home placement.
And then I really think she's unhappy, and then I just feel so bad for her.
I asked everyone's opinion. I've asked the social worker in the nursing home.
Could I possibly take her home? I'm starting to think that maybe she would be all right at home.
Well, I think right now the situation that we're in, or the problem that we're in, is that you feel very guilty over the fact that Madeline's here. Madeline is not unhappy here. I spoke to Madeline this morning. Madeline had no recollection of any conversations with you. I asked her how Pat was. She didn't completely understand who Pat was when I asked her. I don't feel she'd be safe at home. I feel the safety factor is the major thing at home.
How far should I go to keep her safe? She can't fall where she's at. She's perfectly safe. She can't go out in traffic. And she's unhappy. Now, is it fair of me to make this decision to keep her so completely safe but unhappy? Or should I take that chance and bring her home where she's not perfectly safe, but she feels as if she'd be happier at home? I had a parakeet one time, and people used to criticize me because I let this parakeet fly all the time. Because they said they live longer if you leave them caged up. And I said if I had to be caged up, I wouldn't want to live. It's the only thing. If it's any kind of comparison. So I don't know.
If the nursing home seems like a cage, it is nonetheless an expensive cage. Nursing homes across the country charge from $20,000 to $50,000 a year, or between $60 to $150 a day. Most of their patients are old and chronically ill. Neither Medicare, the federal health insurance program, nor any other private insurance covers these costs. So beside the family's guilt, there is great financial hardship.
How are you feeling today? Feel all right? My wife got sick about 10 years ago, which they diagnosed at first as a depression and later decided it was a stroke. Then she suffered about 3 more strokes over the years. She can't speak, she can't stand, she can't help herself. I had to send her to a nursing home because being ill myself, I can no longer take care of her. You're looking good, you know? You feeling good? It was a very difficult decision of sending her there or any other place but home. 54 years now we've been married. And I knew her about 6, 7 years before that, so I know this young lady about 60 years. Sometimes, just since we were both kids.
Mr. Hyman Freed was that quintessential American, a traveling salesman.
I worked for 45 years and then retired just about 11 years now. And my situation was fairly secure, I thought at the time. The money I'd been able to save. Roughly, I'd say my backing was about $150,000. I had bought and paid for a home that we lived in. The children were married and on their own. And things looked fairly good for us. Oh, my dreams are glorious dreams. I had imagined the children were, as I said before, on their own, and my wife and I would be free to travel and do a lot of things that we had denied ourselves all our adult life because of the children. My hopes were to take care of the children and leave them something. I also have 4 grandchildren I was thinking of in those plans. And instead it's turned into a nightmare. I had to give up my home, sell the home, because we lived in a place where she couldn't get the kind of care she needed. Now I'm told that with what I would have to pay for her permanently in a nursing home, I probably have enough to see her through for about another 2 years. And then what do I do? Then I'm broke, and all my savings of 45 years of work are gone. And then where do I go? What do I do?
Finally, Mr. Freed turned to his children for financial help.
As a daughter, I see it's very painful. My father's a very remarkable man in many ways. He raised us to believe very much in the American dream.
And better than 50% of the time I'm right, so...
My father worked very hard, and he really believed he was providing well for his retirement. I mean, he had insurance, he had Social Security, he had some savings. And so I took out and then found that no matter what, none of it was enough. And gave her a pen, and she really did try and was able to. Finally, he said, you know, kids, I'm afraid I have to ask you for some help. I can't do it myself. He was scared. For my father to have to turn to us, I think was a painful thing for him. She wanted to take, and Mother had taken 3 books. I knew she could only read one at a time.
You know, it's strange. I started paying into this Medicare system from the day it started. And while I never read the law, always in the back of your mind as a young person working and paying for this thing week after week, they take it out of your salary. They don't give you a choice, you just pay it. And you have the mistaken idea that, well, when you get old, if you get sick, Medicare's going to take care of you. You don't have to worry about that. And then comes the horrible awakening. You retire and you do get sick, and you find out that Medicare has more rules than the Bible. There's no, they don't pay for this, they don't pay for that, they don't pay for anything darn near, except certain short-term acute care things. Now, good God, the average person can afford to handle an occasional acute care thing without paying all their life into it. And that's all they pay.
Dr. Robert Butler is an eminent physician.
If you're old, you better be smart and get a nice acute episodic illness. If you get a chronic, devastating disease, a stroke, for example, or Alzheimer's disease, you may wind up out in the cold, totally uncovered, or you have to humiliate yourself through what is called spending down of income and assets to gain eligibility for Medicaid, which is a state, federal, quasi-welfare program to take care of your health care needs. Medicare was set up as though older people were 40 years of age. It had provisions, benefits that takes care of you if you have to be in an acute hospital with a time prescribed and defined episode. Not if you need outpatient medications, not if you need adequate foot care, hearing aids, long-term care in a nursing home. None of those are part of Medicare. And yet Medicare is advertised as being a solution to the health financing problems of older people.
And basically, you find out you're as deserted as you were 100 years ago when you went to the poorhouse, if you didn't have any money. Because all the insurance I've paid all these years, all my working life, actually amounts to darn little, very little, if anything.
This is the richest country in the world. And yet, unlike many other societies, smaller and less well-to-do, we have not done as well with our older citizens as others have. And it's inexcusable, in my judgment, that this has happened to us in this country.
Well, frankly, the future looks very bleak. I don't know what lies at the end of the road. I don't know what's going to happen. And the nearer I get to that period of time when my money run out, the more frightened I become as to what is going to happen. And that isn't doing me any good either. Hopefully my wife doesn't realize this, and maybe it isn't hurting her mentally. I don't know. I think she understands a lot more than we give her credit for, but because she can't speak, why, we don't know just what is going through her mind. But I know what it's doing to me, and it's wrecking me. I don't know what the end of the road is. I just don't know. I'm 76 years old. I'm not a young man myself. I've got a bad heart, among other things. I don't know what the future could be. What could it be?
We dream for our parents to spend their golden years together. Aging couples surrounded by loved ones. In their own homes. The mortgage paid. Somewhere in our bountiful country. Naomi Hume has a home. She has loving children. And she has a good husband.
How many years we've been married? Can you remember how many years?
We've been 10 years married.
Oh, how about 48?
48?
48 years we've been married.
Kidding me.
No, I wouldn't kid you. Isn't that a long time? And Wayne and Barbara. Rod. And Diane. Don't you remember them? Huh?
No, I don't remember that.
Don't you remember them? Don't you remember Cheryl and Steve?
Oh, yeah, Cheryl and Steve, I remember.
Little Anthony? Little Anthony? Always calls his Pop-Pop. Pop-Pop's car.
Yeah.
Remember that? How about Matthew? Huh?
Matthew?
Yeah, Matthew's the little baby.
Matthew?
Yeah, that's Wayne's little boy. You forgot him? Oh, you remember Matthew.
Here's some juice for you, okay? Can I help you
Mr.
drink it?
Hume is 72.
Have a drink.
He's a retired federal employee. He was stricken by Alzheimer's disease a few years ago.
How does he seem to you today, Mrs. Hume?
He seems a little nervous, a little jittery.
Mm-hmm. He frequently asks. Well, yesterday I know he asked a lot about, when can I go home? I want to go home.
Even when he was home, he'd say, take me home.
I want...
What would you like?
I want riding. When I say I want to ride
Take
it.
your time. Ride in the car?
Yeah.
Well, as soon as we get better, we'll take you for a ride in the car. Where would you like to go?
I don't care.
Mr. Hume has been in the hospital for a few weeks for an operation. Now he has to be discharged. The question is, where? There's a crucial conference between his doctor, his wife, and his daughter.
She's very, very lonely at home. She's very lonely. I mean, they've been married for 48 years. You know, it's a long time. And then to see him in this condition and to be home and not be with him, it's very hard for her. And, you know, we were just wondering, especially my mother was wondering, you know, if he could be discharged.
My objective, of course, would be to try and get Mr. Hume home. The thing is, though, you can't take care of him. You can't physically take care of him. You can't do the kinds of things that would be necessary to sustain him.
He's still my husband.
That's right.
And I just can't just throw him away.
You're really saying that you are willing to be on 24-hour guard duty. You can't sleep. Could you walk outside to look at to pick up the newspaper? Could you go upstairs? Could you, even if you go to the bathroom, can you do that comfortably? You're really saying, can you live any kind of a life with your husband at home?
He's in the hospital now temporarily. What are you saying in the future would be the best thing for my father?
I would think that a nursing home where he can get round-the-clock care and supervision and the support that he needs, where he'll be comfortable.
No, but how am I going to afford it?
She will not be able to afford it. And Medicare, the federal health insurance for the elderly, will not help her.
Because Medicare has failed the middle class in regard to the cost of custodial care, we're seeing an incredible phenomenon of middle-class people who would have been frightened at the thought of turning to a welfare-type program in the past, now beating down the doors of the programs that administer the Medicaid program. Now, I want to make it very clear, these people are not looking to rip off the system. I have no clients who come to me and say, I need Medicaid because I hear they'll pay all my bills and I don't have to pay. They're coming in here and saying, I would pay gladly for my husband or my wife if I could afford it. But I can't afford it and I need help. And the only help we can offer them is this program designed for the poor called Medicaid. Now, Medicaid is just that. It's a program that was enacted to provide health care services for the poor. And it requires state by state that you have very limited resources and very limited income. Here we have middle-class people with lifetime savings in the thousands, far beyond whatever was dreamed of when Medicaid was enacted, saying, I need help from this program to the poor.
The Hume children, Barbara, her husband Rod, and her brother Wayne, must now face the harsh facts of Medicaid. To become eligible, their mother must become poor. She has to hand over her husband's pension and his Social Security. She will be left with $350 a month.
The first thing we did was contact some nursing homes, which we were very concerned about this. And contacting the nursing homes, we had gotten many conflicting stories as far as what would be covered, what wouldn't be covered. Finally, we went to an attorney. This attorney specializes with people with older age health problems. And he sat down and talked to us, and we were very shocked when he told us that the Medicaid would take the entire income, leaving her with this $350 a month. In fact, we just couldn't believe it. And his only suggestion to us was that she could then sue her husband, who she loves very much, for lack of support.
I mean, just the thought, and just to say, you know, my mother would have to sue my father for not supporting her. I mean, it's just like such a ridiculous statement to have to make. You know, my dad worked hard all of his life. He supported us. He took care of us, you know.
He took care of me, my sister, and even helped us all his life. I feel it's time that we try to help him, and that's your father that used to play ball with you, that taught you everything, you know. Now you don't, you just don't realize it. I don't think he knows where he's at or anything. It's so hard.
When I leave there, I try not to think so much of the way that he was that day. I try to think more so what he was when he was well. And I try to, in my mind, to keep those memories of him alive. And not so much of how he is now. It helps me a little bit personally. I mean, it's not reality, but it helps a little bit to get through the pain. Well, Mom, we know that Dad's going to have to go into the nursing home. Now we just have to really...
But with their mother, they have to hide their pain and confront reality squarely, harsh as it may be.
They're going to take Dad's pension, all of his pension, and they're going to take a Social Security check, and you're going to be left with a grand total of $350.
Well, we're willing to help you, certainly. I'm sure Wayne would. That would be an alternative.
No. Mm-mm.
If you didn't want to accept our support,
You're going to have to. I've
300.
been independent all my life, and this is why I want to do it.
Yeah, what would you do? $350 a month. You know you couldn't live. Because you're going to need more money as far as your food, your transportation, as far as your car, clothing, all these other medical expenses that you
I
have.
have to put out, and I know that $350 is not going to be enough. I realize that. I'll have to find some other way, even if I go and get a part-time job. But how can you do that, Mom? I mean,
Yeah, your health now, I don't think that's an option.
No.
If you try to get yourself a job, this $350 isn't enough to begin with. And if you're going to go out when you shouldn't go out looking for work, it's just going to put you under additional pressure.
and that's going to be
It's
on
not
your
going to
health.
solve any problems. It's just going to make the situation worse.
Well, then I don't know where else to turn. I don't know where else to turn.
The biggest asset you have, or the biggest means of income that you have right now, is the home itself. I think we've figured that the home may be worth about $45,000. And if you were to sell the home and take that money, put it in a savings account, and get yourself an apartment somewhere, it's not going to solve all your problems, but at least you have some money in a savings account that you can draw on to pay your living expenses that you have each month. It's going to give you some relief.
Well, what about the principal is going to decrease every year? So that means she's going to be getting less every year. Every time she turns around, she'll have to draw on that money. And in time, it's going to run out.
All right, so we're going to last about 5, 7
All
years.
right, then what's
10
she
years.
going to do after that 5 years?
What if I live? What if I live 8 more years?
Or 10 more years? She won't even have a home to live in. She sells the home now, and then what will she have in the future? This is something that her and Dad has saved for. It's their home.
I
It's
feel
their
the same
castle.
way. Rod and I
Why
both
should
feel
they
the
have
same
to
way.
go out and sell it
Right.
just to
I
survive?
agree with you 100%.
Before we make a big step like selling a home that Mom and Dad worked for all their lives, I think we should go try to find out other avenues.
What are the avenues? You know, we've looked at them all. She's not going to work. She's not going to take our support. So what would happen next month? You know, you're getting $350 a month income. You're having these expenses. What happens then? The decision is yours. Whatever decision that you take, we're going to support you. But consider, you do have to make a decision, and you're going to have to make the decision that is best for you. And your options are to either stay at this home. If you do stay at this home, you're not going to have enough income to be able to maintain normal living conditions in a home like this.
So finally, with all the love and the support she has around her, Naomi Hume is alone with her house and her decision. A painful, lonely decision.
Loneliness, yes. I am very, very lonely. And you spend 48 years with your husband. It's hard. Sorry. Making decisions is hard. Very, very hard. And I want to make the right decisions. I want what's best for him.
We've been 10 married years married.
We've been together all these years.
48?
Raised a family. I never thought that anything like this would ever happen to us.
Clouds drifting by, echo of sky, parting is such sweet sorrow. I'm drifting to dreaming
We all hope that our parents will live long and healthy lives. Sadly, sometimes they don't. Today, there are 6.5 million elderly, like Mr. Hume, who need long-term nursing care. When President Johnson signed Medicare into law 20 years ago, he said, every citizen will be able to insure himself against the ravages of illness in his old age. For many, that promise has not been kept. Yet the political mood right now is to cut back on all rising health costs. So who does pay? The rich can afford private care. The poor have Medicaid. It is middle-class Americans who alone have to bear the high costs of long-term care. By the year 2020, when the baby boomers reach their 70s, there will be 50 million of us. Who will take care of us? Next week on Frontline, we begin a special 12-part series on the Soviet people called Comrades.
It's a rare glimpse inside the Iron Curtain at the lives of people we know so little about. One of them is Rita, a smart, ambitious Soviet woman who's achieved her dream, to be a teacher.
If one of my pupils remembers me, even if it's only one, it will have made my life worthwhile.
It's the story of a model Soviet citizen, enjoying life, falling in love, sharing her thoughts and feelings about her country, the Soviet Union.
This first program is called The Education of Rita. It is next week on Frontline's special series, Comrades. I'm Judy Woodruff. Good night.
For a transcript of this program, please send $4 to Frontline, Box 322, Boston, Massachusetts, 02134. Frontline is produced for the Documentary Consortium by WGBH, Boston, which is solely responsible for its content. Funding for Frontline was provided by this station and other public television stations nationwide, and by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
Schools, colleges, and other organizations interested in purchasing or renting video cassettes of this program may call 800-424-7963 or write PBS Video, Post Office Box 8092, Washington, D.C. 20024.